Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, President Bola Tinubu directs the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to vacate a court order freezing the accounts of the Osun State government. ICPC submits interim PFIPC probe report to President Tinubu, recommends prosecution of the Director General Adeniyi Adeyemi. Corps Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps appears before the House Committee investigating the activities of the PFIPC, insists due process was followed in the issuance of license number plates to the agency. And US President Donald Trump dismisses reports of munitions shortage, vows long-term jail sentences for those suspected of leaking information.
On business news, the Nigerian Exchange Group meets President Bola Tinubu, seeks the privatization and stock market listing of strategic national assets.
On sports news tonight, Super Falcons will renew one of Africa's women's football greatest rivalries when they take on Cameroon in the quarterfinals of the Women's African Cup of Nations.
From the nation's capital, NEMA urges stronger interagency coordination to build effective early warning system, reduce flood risk and protect lives.
This indeed comes as cherry news for the Osun State government. Well, the president has directed the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, to immediately return to the court order and vacate the court order freezing the Osun State government's accounts. Now, in a statement, President Bola Tinubu said he was not embarrassed by the EFCC's anti-corruption mandate or the court order itself, but by the timing of the action coming just days before the Osun governorship poll. Now, President Tinubu reiterated his commitment to allowing the anti-corruption agencies to operate independently without political interference, stressing that he had no prior knowledge of the EFCC's decision to seek the court order. However, he noted that every action of a federal institution is ultimately linked to the presidency, making it necessary to intervene in the interest of public confidence. Meanwhile, Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has slammed a $2 billion suit on the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, that's the EFCC, over the unlawful freezing of the state's account, that's federal statutory allocation account. Now, the plaintiffs pose several legal questions for the court to determine, among which includes whether, having regard to the express provisions of Section 1, 6, 36, 44, and 162 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, and Section 34 of the EFCC Establishment Act 2004, the defendant possesses the lawful authority to freeze, post no debit order, or otherwise interfere with the Osun State statutory account maintained with First Bank without regard to due process of law. Now, the Osun State government urged the court to declare the actions of the defendants as unlawful, unconstitutional, and of no effect whatsoever. They prayed the court to award $2 billion against the defendants to serve as exemplary and aggravated damages for the unlawful interference with public funds, as well as an order directing the defendants to pay the costs of the litigation. A no date has been fixed for the suit, which was filed shortly after President Bola Tinubu directed the EFCC to immediately approach the court to unfreeze the Osun State Federal Statutory Allocation account. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, that's the ICPC, has submitted an interim report to President Bola Tinubu on its investigation into the alleged fictitious Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, PFIPC, recommending that the controversial Director General, Mr. Adeniyi Adeyemi, be prosecuted. The ICPC also revealed that administrative sanctions be imposed on public officers whose acts of omissions and negligence facilitated the illegal operation of the agency. Our State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, has the report.
It had all the makings of a political thriller. Allegations of bribery and forgery, whispers of a fake agency with an office tucked inside the Federal Secretariat, even a suspicious budgetary allocation. The revelations ignited a storm, sparking fierce debate across the country and leaving citizens questioning how deep the rot might run. On July the 7th, President Bola Tinubu ordered the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission to carry out a thorough investigation into what he termed a fictitious Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council within 30 days. Exactly 30 days later, the chairman of the commission is here to submit an interim report. He then briefs the press on their findings.
We have discovered, and it has been established, that Adeni Matthew was never appointed by the federal government or any authority of government. Then the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council was never established by any law or executive order or other valid instrument of government. And also our internal report found that there are weaknesses in verification, interagency oversight, and government processes that we discovered that those weaknesses were exploited by Adeni with some level of negligence and connivance.
He also outlines their recommendations.
The Adeni should be prosecuted. 2, administrative sanctions be imposed on public officers whose acts of omission and negligence facilitated the illegal operation of PFIPC/PEAC. Because our investigation found that some public officers, they failed to do due diligence and they failed to adhere with the standard procedures that are supposed to be complied in their ministries and departments.
On the issue of the alleged bribe,
whether we have interacted with Adeni, yes, we did. It's among the persons that we have interacted with, and we have taken statements, and what he have told us, we have noted it, and we have drawn our own findings based on that. And also, like I say, we are going on with the investigation, which is criminal investigation, which we are trying to round up and see how we are going to file the charges. And for the issue of the 400 million naira, I don't want to go into that allegation, which is criminal. Once we finish everything and we are going to court, people will see what really we discovered in our own investigation on that.
According to the chairman of the ICPC, investigations will continue into the activities of Mr. Adeni and his collaborators so that criminal charges can be filed before a court of competent jurisdiction. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
Now, following the ongoing investigation of the House of Representatives into the fake establishment of the PFIPC, the Corps Marshal of the FRSC, Mr. Shehu Mohammed, has explained how the council was issued licensed number plates, insisting that due diligence was indeed carried out. Meanwhile, the Permanent Secretary of the State House has refuted claims that the budget code was generated for the agency. Our National Assembly correspondent, Terry Kumi, reports.
Investigation into the establishment of a Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, PFIPC, now regarded as fake, intensifies as the House Ad Hoc Committee continues to receive concerned MDAs. The session begins with the representative of the Permanent Secretary of the State House responding to public concerns around the generation of a budget code for the alleged fake council, PFIPC.
I want to state categorically clear that we did not send any correspondence nor any request to the Office of Accountant General in respect of this council. We don't even know anything about this council. We never heard about this council until we started seeing it in the media, on the news.
Mr. Idris also reacts to claims that a correspondence was sent to the Accountant General from the State House, signed by one Mr. Akombi Adewale, who claimed to be the Director of Admin and Support Services.
In State House, there is no any department that is named Directorate of Administration and Support Services. Well, I've never had that. It's only Department of Administration. And this Akombi Adewale has never ever been a Director of Administration in State House.
Mr. Idris admits a failure on the part of government agencies, as highlighted by a member of the committee.
How did it happen that a General Head of Service, they couldn't understand this procedure and they went ahead to give approval and give them accommodations and give them attentions? It's a question that I want to answer. That means that there's someone somewhere that is doing what we investigate that are not ahead.
They should have done due diligence. At least, if they don't want to write or document it, they can make a call, they can visit the State House, they can come to see the Permanent Secretary and say, can you please confirm for us if these letters are from here? But that never happened.
The committee then turns to the Federal Road Safety Corps, with the Corps Marshal in attendance. His presence is to respond to allegations from a businessman who appeared before the committee the previous day, stating that he was picked up from the airport with PFIPC official vehicles with federal government number plates.
The Corps visited the official website indicated in the correspondence. The website bore a federal government domain and contained information consistent with that of a legitimate federal government institution, including the names of prominent public office holders as members of its governing board or council.
The chairman of the committee, however, picks holes in the documents before him.
Mandates that have no security feature. 1. Vision and mission, including the composition of the board that have Mr. President as a member. Between you and your last staff, does this look normal to you? I need yes or no. No.
The hearing is adjourned as the committee looks to hold an expanded session next week to determine where and how the failure of government offices birthed the fake council. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Officers and men of the Nigerian police must play active roles in shaping the national conversation on the proposed establishment of state police through informed engagement, objective analysis and public enlightenment. This directive is from the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Olatunji Disu. Speaking at a one-day workshop on state police organized by the Nigerian Police Institute in Abuja, Mr. Disu says the event is a timely platform for critical reflection on one of Nigeria's most significant security policy debates.
This workshop, organized by the Nigerian Police Institute, attracts senior police officers from across the country as the establishment of state police takes the center stage. The need for informed dialogue and continuous professional engagement remains essential to preparing officers for the changes in Nigeria's policy and architecture.
We are leading hundreds of officers who must be told about the state police, who must be educated about state police, to alleviate their fears, because there are fears everywhere, and it's our duty to educate them and let them know what the state police is all about. The federal government of Nigeria have made up their mind to have the state police, and it is our duty to assist them to achieve it.
At a separate engagement, the Inspector General of Police is hosting the management of the National Orientation Agency, who are on a working visit to the force headquarters.
We knew the easier way out.
The Director General of the National Orientation Agency states the essence of the working visit, which is aimed at promoting public trust.
This visit provides an opportunity to deepen cooperation between the two institutions central to national peace, public order, and citizens' confidence in government.
With a promise to partner with the National Orientation Agency, the Inspector General of Police highlights the reforms being executed by the leadership of the force.
the Nigerian police force is undergoing a deliberate reform aimed at making policing more professional and accountable. So with that, we need members of the public to know what we are doing in the Nigerian police force. I want to mention to you, sir, that members of the Nigerian police force are hard-working individuals. And day and night, the Nigerian police force are working very, very hard to protect the nation and everybody, all the citizens and foreigners in this country. And while doing it, we do it, and officers die daily protecting Nigerians.
The visit by the management of the National Orientation Agency to the force headquarters is aimed at deepening relationship between both agencies for a safer Nigeria.
In part two, after the break, Nigerian Democratic Congress NDC sets up Reconciliation Committee, urges members who lost out in the party's primaries to prioritize national interest over personal ambition. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you have just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasted live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Bola Tinubu directs the EFCC to vacate a court order freezing the accounts of the Osun State government. ICPC submits interim PFIPC probe report to President Tinubu, recommends prosecution of the DG Adeni Adeyemi. Co-Marshal of the FRSC appears before the House Committee investigating the activities of the PFIPC, insists due process was followed in the issuance of license number plates to the agency. And US President Trump dismisses reports of munitions shortage, vows long-term jail sentences for those suspected of leaking information. The Department of State Services, the DSS, has arraigned one of its retired officers, Walgu Ezeakolam, before the Federal High Court in Abuja over allegations of associating with the proscribed indigenous peoples of Biafra, IPOB. Mr. Ezeakolam faces a 4-count charge, including alleged support and membership of IPOB, as well as using social media to promote the group's activities, contrary to the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022 and the Cybercrimes Act. However, the defendant pleaded not guilty. While counsel for the DSS, Mamunat Oladunjoye, asked for a date for commencement of trial, counsel to the defendant, Godfirst Maduka, applied for a date to file the bail application, which the judge said should be filed at any time. Justice Mohammed Umar then adjourned the case until October the 29th this year for commencement of trial and ordered that the retired DSS officer be remanded at the Kuje Correctional Center pending the hearing of his bail application. The Nigerian Democratic Congress, the NDC, says its members of the party who lost out in the last primary elections must look at the bigger picture of a Nigeria that works for everyone and not a select few, as is currently being experienced in the country. Speaking at the inauguration of the committee in Abuja, the chairman, Professor Patu Tomi, appealed to all aggrieved party members to appear before the committee to make their case. Now, the committee also has Mr. Buba Galadima as its co-chair and the 2 deputy national chairmen as members, amongst others.
And so I come to this assignment bearing that in mind. And I begin by reminding myself of who as Africans we really are. We often say, and the South Africans capture it best, in the Ubuntu concept. I am because we are. The tendency to focus on self, this narcissism that's eating up our political space, has prevented us from remembering who we are as Africans and recognizing that we all have the possibilities of thriving because the collective thrives. If we would just bear that in mind, we will see the need to reconcile differences. These are small things compared to the greater good that is out there that we can claim as a people. We're calling out to all all of our compatriots. People have been hurt in different ways, but the greater good will profit you just as it profits those who may be, quote-unquote, temporary winners. Together, we can bake this bigger cake that can lift our country and ultimately our continent out of where it is. We owe it to our children, to this continent, for Nigeria to become that leader of these flying geese. And our divisiveness has for too long prevented us from claiming and executing that role.
The Yoruba Tennis Club marks a historic milestone as it celebrates its centenary anniversary in Lagos. Akwa Ibom State Governor Umar Eno takes center stage to deliver the keynote lecture themed Good Governance, Renewing Hope in Challenging Times. He calls for inclusive leadership, continuity and development that delivers tangible progress to the people.
Thank you very much.
It's a packed house at the Yoruba Tennis Club as it celebrates its centenary anniversary with a lecture themed Good Governance, Renewing Hope in Challenging Times, which features Akwa Ibom State Governor as the keynote speaker. In his remark, Governor Eno praises the club as a beacon of inclusivity, an institution that welcomes people from all backgrounds and symbolizes good governance.
If I were asked to define good governance in a simple sentence, this club will readily be my example of good governance in real-time practice.
He also highlights infrastructure milestones in Akwa Ibom State, calling them the backbone of his administration's Arise agenda.
On infrastructure, 1,346 kilometers of economically viable roads and 41 bridges in 3 years, and not one inherited project abandoned under our one project by local government policy. There is now no local government area in Akwa Ibom State without a completed government project, a road, a model primary school, or a model healthcare center.
The governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, commends Governor Eno's insights. He congratulates the Yoruba Tennis Club on its centenary, praising its resilience and enduring legacy.
Thank you for the great work you are doing for the people of Akwa Ibom, for the support you continue to give me personally, and all of the respect you give to my government. You are one of our pride. Let us renew our collective commitment to Nigeria, where democracy is different. Let us build institutions that will strengthen, opportunities are expanded, and hope is translated into measurable progress. If we remain united in our purpose and steadfast in our service, then the best chapter of our national story is still well ahead of us.
The chairman of the club, Chief Engineer Olawumi Gaspar, expresses gratitude. He pays tribute to the founders for building an inclusive institution that stands the test of time.
All the founding fathers of this very, very, very great club who saw it fit at a particular time, 100 years ago, to decide to set up this when the colonial masters, who were their classmates in Oxford, Cambridge, Glasgow, refused them to play tennis in the city of Lagos. So having such an institution to be 100, I mean, what else? And for me to be the chief pilot and the chairman on this occasion of the 100th anniversary, I must say I give all glory to God.
As the Yoruba Tennis Club caps off its first centenary, it now looks ahead, ready to build on its rich legacy and make an even greater impact in the years to come.
Right, we have more news this time from the nation's capital. Millicent Walker is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Over to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Aitunde. Well, it's an urgent appeal to strengthen coordination among relevant institutions to build an effective early warning system in Nigeria capable of protecting lives, reducing disaster risks, and improving flood preparedness across the country. And that's coming from the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Ms. Zubaida Umar. She made the remark at a high-level interagency meeting held at the agency's headquarters in Abuja ahead of the national launch of the United Nations Early Warnings for All initiative.
Nigeria continues to experience increasing risks from floods, droughts, windstorms, heat, stress, disease outbreaks, and many other hazards, making the Early Warning for All initiative both timely and necessary. In 2025 alone, over 1 million were affected by floods in Nigeria. The Secretary General of the UN has called Early Warning for All a survival agenda for humanity. And for Nigeria, it is also a national security and development agenda. We therefore gather today to agree on a common pathway towards a successful national launch and, more importantly, ensure in Nigeria every person is covered by an early warning system by the year 2027. This meeting should enable us to develop a shared understanding of the launch arrangements, clearly define institutional roles and responsibilities, establish practical coordination mechanisms, identify immediate actions and timelines, and to reaffirm our commitment to sustaining collaboration beyond the launch. The launch will mark the beginning of a fully operational multi-hazard early warning system in Nigeria.
Well, elsewhere, it's a stern warning, this time from the Federal Capital Territory Administration to unregistered public transporters in the FCT to desist from roadside operations and utilize the commissioned bus terminals, which officials say are now fully operational. Speaking during a press briefing in the nation's capital, the FCTA's mandate secretary for the Transport Secretariat, Mr. Chinedu stated that the administration will not hesitate to still seal up premises harboring unregistered transporters, impound defaulting vehicles and arrest defaulters. He explains that the move forms part of the administration's effort to clean up the capital and rid the city of cases of kidnapping, car robbery and other crimes.
The Honourable Minister has taken his time with the directive of the President to lead this bus terminal to address two issues. FCT must be a modern capital city. You cannot have a disheveled or a mismanaged transportation system. And because what we're trying to ensure is for people to enter a transportation going to Lokoja to Aba, and you're comfortable. It is secure. The security is guaranteed. You cannot guarantee what will happen when you bought the bus in a beggar. So it is where the man knows he can board the vehicle safely that is important. It's not what you're used to. Yes, you've been used to standing at beggar. And then that is why we have the one chance. Now we are guaranteeing something. Like I said, every day they talk about one chance. Every day they talk about keke rank. Every day they talk about Okada. It's all pointing to one place, which is the Transport Secretariat. I'm tired. And this is the first time I'm having this kind of press conference. And so it's a serious matter. I will do everything to make sure that this menace of everybody putting their kind in any small space you see, to turn it into pies. We'll stop it. If you're not allowing premises and turn it into pies, we'll stop it. Because the laws are there. We'll have the laws. We'll seal up your premises, we'll empower your vehicles, and there's nothing you can do.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigerian Exchange Group meets President Bola Tinubu seeking the privatization and stock market listing of strategic national assets. That's on Business News. Please join us again. To Yobe, where electricity just got a boost as the federal government, in partnership with the state government, laid the foundation for the construction of a 13.9 megawatt interconnected hybrid mini-grid in the Maturu. The project, which would be spread across the Maturu, Bade, Nguru and Potoskum local governments, is aimed at providing cheap and accessible electricity to the rural communities.
Governor Mai Malabuni of Yobe State is joined by the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Power, as well as other government officials for the flag-off of 13.9 megawatts interconnected hybrid mini solar project in Sumsuma village in Damaturu local government area of the state. The project, which has a 6-month completion period, is expected to create jobs for thousands of youths across the state and boost the economy of the area.
This initiative represents another bold step towards expanding energy access, accelerating socio-economic development, and improving the welfare of our citizens through clean and sustainable electricity.
We are groundbreaking for the establishment of 5 interconnected mini-grids that will inject close to 14 megawatts of clean, reliable, affordable electricity into the Yobe State distribution network.
Supported by the World Bank, the project is part of a 60.82 megawatts energy pool under the Nigerian Electrification Program, which aims to deploy over 1,350 total mini-grids across rural areas in the country.
The Federal Ministry of Power remains committed to implementing policies and programs that expand electricity access while accelerating Nigeria's transition to clean and more sustainable sources of energy. Through strategic collaboration with the Rural Electrification Agency, state government, private sector and development partners, we are bringing electricity to communities that have long remained unserved or underserved.
In Yobe State, the project is spread across Damaturu, Badi, Unguru and Potiskum local government areas, and Governor Mai Malabuni believes it will complement the efforts of the state government over the last 7 years, which has seen the electrification of 450 communities in the state.
The government successfully initiated and completed the electrification of over 450 rural communities across the state, and connected several others to the national grid, thereby expanding access to electricity and stimulating socio-economic development. Similarly, the government restored power supply to communities whose facilities were vandalized in the wake of the Boko Haram insurgents. We equally connected the 30-year-old Gulani local government and the 35-year-old Unisari local government to the national grid.
Governor Buni then hands over the certificates of compensation to those displaced by the construction of the projects. He is later joined by other officials for the groundbreaking ceremony of the hybrid solar project.
And as part of efforts aimed at curbing smuggling activities, the Nigerian Customs Service Adamawa Taraba Command has intercepted contraband with a duty-paid value of over 362 million naira along the countries bordering Cameroon and Chad within a period of 6 weeks. This disclosure was made by the Controller of Customs Adamawa Taraba Command, Mohammed Abdullahi Tako, during a media briefing at the headquarters of the command in Yola.
This press conference, holding at the headquarters of the Nigerian Customs Service Adamawa Taraba Command, is to brief the media on the command's anti-smuggling operational activities in the past 6 weeks. According to the controller, the seizures were made through intelligence-driven operations conducted across strategic locations in Adamawa and Taraba states as part of efforts to protect the nation's economy and curb illicit trade. He goes on to give a breakdown of the key interceptions by the command.
In total, within 6 weeks of successful anti-smuggling operations, the command intercepted and seized 25,995 liters of PMS. That is equivalent to 1,003 jerrycans of PMS and one drum and one drum. Subsequently, 9 kilograms of cannabis sativa was also intercepted, 74 kilograms of avitos, 220 kilograms of pangolin scales, 64 pieces of complete raw donkey skin, and 534.55 kilograms of dried donkey meat.
He emphasizes that smuggling of petroleum products and trafficking of endangered wildlife sabotages national security, among other issues.
Wildlife species and cannabis sativa directly sabotages national security, undermines public health, and damages economic stability. we maintain zero tolerance for illicit trade. Offenders will face wrath of the law and full forfeiture of their assets. Please be informed that following this briefing, the seized donkey skins will be destroyed immediately.
5 suspects were arrested in connection with the seizures and are currently undergoing investigation before being charged to court.
And that's it from the nation's capital. Over now to Will Ibong with business news.
Thank you, Millicent. And the Nigerian Exchange Group is seeking deeper government support to expand Nigeria's capital market. And during a meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the State House in Abuja, the exchange said market-friendly reforms have helped drive investor confidence and projects the total value of companies listed on the NGX to reach about 230 trillion naira by the end of 2026. The group also calls for a review of the capital gains tax and urges the president to accelerate the privatization and stock market listing of strategic national assets to deepen the capital market.
The first, Mr. President, is what we call privatization and listings. The markets that we have today really also came into light because of intentionality by government at the time. You would remember, sir, in the 70s, we had the indigenization program. Many of your Nestle's and Unilevers and these companies only came to the markets as a result. MTN, the big telecommunications company that we talk about today, that's a big part of the exchange, also only came as a result of government efforts. And we're asking, Mr. President, firstly, for your support in this regard. There are a few companies that we have identified, companies like LMA Petrochemicals, like Indorama. These are companies, and NLNG. These are companies that somewhere in their clauses already are listing clauses for some of them, or some of them just in the hands of government to say, look, NLNG, let's list our stake on the exchange, or perhaps Indorama or LMA, or some assets that the NNPC owns in its portfolio. So, Mr. President, with your kind support, that would be one item that we would really like your support around.
In response, President Bola Tinubu says Nigeria has the capacity to build a $1 trillion economy. He also addresses the NGX call for more strategic national assets to be brought to the capital market.
If we can support the private sector, it will be a great benefit. What are we producing that other nations will? How do we collaborate with other countries? How do we get this listening down like you have identified? Before asking is not a big problem. We look at it. The expansion is for all for us. I could look back and look at Aramco and others and see how the oil producing of Saudi Arabia, the life of publicly quoted company. We can refine and do NNPC, reform to the extent that one day the totality of it, not just the arms and legs, the totality of it will be listed.
Now, Nigeria's manufacturers are becoming more confident about the business environment helped by recent government policies. The latest manufacturers' CEO's confidence index rose to 52.1 in the second quarter of 2026, up from 48.7 in the previous quarter. The improvement was driven by a more positive outlook for business following recent tax reforms, executive orders, and other pro-industry policies. And despite the improved sentiment, manufacturers say access to affordable credit remains a major challenge. They are calling on the central bank to lower interest rates, give manufacturers better access to foreign exchange, and ensure government agencies buy more made in Nigeria products to boost local production. Meanwhile, the Nigeria's Employers Consultative Association, NECA, is urging the federal and Lagos state governments to intervene following the closure of factories and commercial facilities in Lagos's Dokpemu Industrial Corridor after the enforcement of a court order in a long-running land dispute. In a statement, NECA said it respects the judicial process but warns that the shutdowns could threaten jobs, disrupt supply chains, and weaken investor confidence. It said that affected corridor is part of the Lagos-Ogun Industrial Axis, which accounts for more than half of Nigeria's industrial output. The Director General of NECA, Adewale Smart-Oyerinde, calls for an interim arrangement that would allow legitimate businesses to continue operating while the courts determine the case to protect jobs, investments, and industrial stability. With that, we're checking with the domestic equities market. We sustain positive sentiments as investors track oil and gas, banking sectors. Inijanokwa has more.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, despite the 3 straight days of low trading activity, market today gained 192 billion naira, and that although it still keeps us around the 158 trillion naira level, but at least we've gone a bit right there. The all share is positive 0.12%, and yes, we've recovered the 245,209.34, so we are back to 245,000 now. Let's look at the sectors and see our exciting banking today. Well, they did it. They crossed over to the green side, 0.62%, mostly because of Access Co, GT Co, and of course, First Bank. First Bank has not left our lips in how many trading sessions now. Consumer goods is also positive, 0.15%, as well as oil and gas. So oil and gas is up today, and well, Itana and O&O, their results still ringing in our ears right there. Top trades today, we see FCMB and Evercap leading all of that, as well as First Wholesale. It gained 1 naira today, so a lot of people did put their money in First Wholesale. At the end of trade, 24 stocks gained and 23 posted losses, and we have the ball.
Now let's see the performance of other major stock markets around the world. And that's business news. I'm Will Ibong. It's back to Ayo for more on the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Will. U.S. President Donald Trump has dismissed reports that the United States is suffering a shortage of weapons, vowing long-term jail sentences for those suspected of leaking information. Now, here's Simon Pusey from our London studio with more on this and other international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. President Donald Trump has denied reports that the US is suffering a munitions shortage and vowed in a social media post that his administration would seek long-term jail sentences for those suspected of leaking information. The US has massive amounts of munitions, especially of certain types, Trump posted on Thursday morning. Additionally, large amounts are being manufactured and shipped to the US as needed. With the war with Iran in its 6th month, Trump and the Pentagon are facing mounting questions about the state of the military's arsenal. The US and Iran have continued to trade strikes despite multiple pauses in fighting, and a deal to fully end hostilities remains elusive. Ukraine has said it has hit 2 oil refineries in multiple strikes deep inside Russia, with patrol boats and other vessels in the Black Sea also hit. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the refinery attacks were aimed at limiting oil revenues Moscow uses to finance its war. The regional governor said 4 people were injured. Meanwhile, Ukraine said at least 11 people were killed in Russian attacks, and the southern city of Kherson reported a total blackout. Russia said it targeted fuel, energy and transport facilities. Congolese authorities are carrying out Ebola and cholera screening for all 255 passengers aboard a boat intercepted on the Congo River. The Yifeng 2, operated by a Chinese company, was halted near Benda Benda ports, some 65 kilometers upstream from the capital Kinshasa. The health minister said screening was being carried out as a precautionary measure after a passenger with fever and diarrhea who got off at an earlier stop had died in hospital. A further 2 adults, a 3-year-old child and a newborn, have also died.
Senator Moreno.
On behalf of the millions of people harmed by Anthony Fauci, resoundingly yes.
A U.S. Senate committee has voted to hold former top health official Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress after he refused to answer questions during a hearing examining his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
The vote, which fell along party lines, clears the way for the committee to refer the case to the Justice Department for potential prosecution for failing to comply with a congressional subpoena. During his testimony last week, Fauci invoked his constitutional right against self-incrimination more than 100 times, arguing that the Kentucky Senator Paul Rand was trying to put him behind bars.
Hey everyone! As I prepare for the premiere of my one-woman show, Cartwheel, at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival this August, I've been thinking about the relationship between tragedy and comedy.
The sister of Meredith Kercher has criticised a solo comedy show by Amanda Knox, who was convicted and later acquitted of murdering the British student in Italy in 2007. A petition against the show, set up by a friend of Meredith, has been signed by over 2,400 people and says the show disrespects her memory and also risks normalising violence against women. A spokesperson for Knox said the show, set to run over 11 days from Friday, honours Kercher's memory. No Frills airline EasyJet has agreed to be taken over in a £5.7 billion deal by US firm Apollo after a rival suitor dropped out. The takeover was agreed after US investment firm Castlelake, which had made a series of offers for the carrier, said it was withdrawing from the bid battle. EasyJet is one of Europe's largest airlines. It employs more than 19,000 people and flies around 1,200 routes across 35 European countries. It was founded by Sir Stelios Hagilonu in 1995 to offer cheap fares to Europe from the UK. European teams could still boycott competitions, including the World Cup, despite member nations of FIFA giving their president their backing. Infantino's position has been under scrutiny since the controversial plan to sell stakes in its competitions to private investors. FIFA's chief operating officer was not invited to yesterday's meeting in Morocco, in which senior executives backed the FIFA president. Infantino looks set to fight for re-election for a 4th term and will need 106 votes from FIFA's 211 members to win. European teams could still boycott competitions, as UEFA says FIFA's defence of its president, Infantino, changes nothing. And a tourist has been declared lucky to be alive by experts after he was knocked to the floor and butted by a wild bison. Witnesses said the man came within around 4 or 5 metres of the bison before it charged and knocked him to the ground. A nature photographer who witnessed and recorded the encounter shouted at the man not to move before using his car to separate him from the bison. The forest straddles the border between Poland and Belarus and is one of Europe's last remaining large areas of primary forest. It is best known as a refuge for the European bison, the continent's largest land mammal. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you so much, Asami. Time now for some sports news with Chris Illems. Chris.
Thank you, Ayo. Welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's Super Falcons will renew one of Africa's women football greatest rivalries with a take on Cameroon in the quarterfinal of the 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations. On Sunday, coach Justin Madugu sees the clash as one of the biggest tests for the defending champions in the knockout phase and says the girls must put in their best against the indomitable Lionesses who finished top of Group D.
like we said, each time you come up in a competition like this, you always hope your team to get better as you make progress in the competition. We all know what the next game stands for, especially looking at the opposition. These are rivals that we know ourselves, and we know what it also means to our people in Nigeria. So it's not a game that we're going to take for granted by enemies, just as we know they too will not take it for granted. They will not. But we were able to beat them in Cameroon the last time we played against them. We lost against them in the first leg. We beat them in the second leg. The compliments of the players that played in those games might not necessarily be the same players that will be playing here. So it's not something that we will use the last result to judge and say, no, because we are beating them in the past. We know what it means and we will be ready for it.
And former African 100 meters champion and Olympic bronze medalist Mary Onyali says the country must now look beyond Team Nigeria's performance at the Commonwealth Games held in Glasgow and begin early preparations for the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles immediately. In an exclusive interview with Channels Television, the Olympic bronze medalist admits if Nigeria must put up an impressive performance, the time to act is now.
Commonwealth Games usually have between 15 to 20 games, sports. This year it was reduced to 10. So you would say that on average, we did much better than when we had the full sports in attendance. We lost most of our medals from wrestling. If wrestling was here, we would have gotten a whole lot more. Athletics, we projected 6 to 7 gold medals. And like I said, the days where we had our athletics finals, the weather was worse than anything. Most of the days we had our athletics final, but we made it up towards the end. And it was supposed to be gold, but we got silvers and bronze. See, this year, I would say for a very long time, our athletes finally got the message. And they were really, really serious about, coming out here and giving their all. They were heavily motivated. Since the DG and the chairman got in the office, the incentives that they've been getting is enough to make anybody want to, put up their best. 2028 is 2 years from now. But as far as we are concerned, on sports calendar, it's 2 months. It's just around the corner. So we have really started the groundwork. The base work has been done here with our team at the Commonwealth, together with the under-20. Once the season is over, we'll be able to collate everybody and make sure that the pathway going forward to 2028, the campaign is started on time. The athletes that are going to stand on the podium, as far as the podium board is concerned, are already being eyeballed. So we are going to put a very strong proposal and package together and start as early as possible. With this team here, if we lose focus on what we have put together here, then we might just not go to the games. So this is it. We have to take this team seriously.
Nigeria's representatives have discovered their path to the group stage of the Confederation of African Football Inter-Club Competitions after today's draw in Cairo, Egypt. Nigeria Premier Football League winners Enugu Rangers have been drawn to face AS Sobemap of Benin Republic in the Champions League, while Rivers United will face Ivorian side FC San Pedro. In the CAF Confederation Cup, Nigeria FA Cup champions El Kanemi Warriors will play Yoon Deep of Guinea-Bissau, while Shooting Stars face a tricky tie against CS Faction of Tunisia. The first legs will host between September 4 and 6, while the return legs will be between September 11 and 13th. And Brazil winger Vinicius Jr. has agreed a new 6-year contract with Real Madrid that will keep him at the Bernabeu until 2032. The 26-year-old had entered the final 12 months of his contract and attracted interest from Arsenal in recent weeks. However, Real Madrid announced earlier today the two parties have agreed to extend his deal to June the 30th, 2032. That sports is back to you, Ayo.
And the main news again. President Bola Tinubu has directed the EFCC to vacate a court order freezing the accounts of the Osun state government. And the ICPC has submitted the PFIPC probe report to President Bola Tinubu as it recommended the prosecution of the agency's Director General Adeniyi Adeyemi. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. You have a good night.